Hello everyone, this is John from RPGs and More. And in today's episode, I'm going to do another dive into the Prince Valiant storytelling game. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at two topics and maybe expand to a third if it doesn't take too long. The first of the two topics is episodes and what those are. Now, in a nutshell, an episode is a short adventure or even just an encounter. An episode, the idea of the episode is to have a small self-contained unit that can function as a bit of the adventure or story for your players that can be kind of plug and played in various locations. In the book, there's a whole list of episodes that could be for a challenge to a night. Anytime you run across another knight at a crossroads, you can insert one of these and have a ready-made episode or encounter. It could be, there's rescue encounters, which you can just throw in if you like, if the characters need someone to rescue them, or you want them to rescue someone else. There's all sorts. A lot of them are things that can happen if you're just, on the roadside, things that can interrupt a standard travel. So the whole idea behind these is you don't have to think too much about it. But what I like about them, outside of that, is the fact that they're all relatively manageable. Some of them the party could complete them in as little as an hour, and others could easily, they might take longer than an hour, but they probably could be completed in 4 hours. Very few of them would need more than one game session in order to actually push forward the entire plot. And in fact, that's only if you as the storyteller are embellishing them a lot. Now, but the fun part is, while they only need that small amount of time in order to tell the episode, there's enough meat on most of those bones, especially if you start adding them together, where you can have an adventure that lasts much longer. You can actually do an entire 4-hour session based off of a single episode that, in theory, could be only completed in an hour, but maybe you want to add a few complications to it. Maybe you want to take that one and add a second episode to it. Have some fun. There's a lot of cool options there, but just think of it like an episode of a television show. Typically, they will last between 20 and 30 minutes, maybe even 45 minutes. They're not long. The plot is presented, the characters go through what's going on, and then the plot is resolved, and then you move on. And typically, there's not a whole lot that's carried over from one episode to the next. Think of like an episode of Star Trek original series, or even Next Generation, or an episode of Friends, or an episode of, pick your favorite TV show, really. Unless they're specifically designed to have an overarching plot that is carried over episode to episode, a lot of times you can kind of jump in and out of a television show and generally know what's going on. If you can hear that in the background, that's my cat playing with paper. And that's to the strengths of the episode. And that's really the only introduction you actually need to what an episode is. So that's why that's the first one. The second one we're going to talk about is special effects. This is going to take a little bit longer. So in the basic game of the Prince Valiant storytelling game, special effects are things that only the storyteller has access to. And they are things that break the rules, but usually in a fun way that makes a story more interesting or exciting, or gives the players a leg up in a scenario where they otherwise might be at a disadvantage, or does the same for the baddies in a way that the baddies might not otherwise have managed to achieve. Now we're getting a little paper-based slip and slide. I think it's hilarious. All right. So what are the special effects that are often available for this purpose. I'm going to go over those real briefly. And they are, the basic special effects are as follows. Feel free to invent more as long as they are equally limited. So equally limited meaning that they do one thing, they do it once, and then they're done. That's the other part I should mention, is each one of these special effects only works once. It's not like a feat in 5th edition D&D, where once you got it, you can just use it whenever you want. It is a one-time use of this special thing that might break the game a little bit. But then it's done, and it's over, okay? And the same goes for when it's in the hands of the NPCs. Use it once, if you're the storyteller. Use it once, use it well, but then your NPCs are done. They don't get to use it again, okay? Bear that in mind when you're planning your sessions out. So, Terrify. Terrify, the effect makes the benefited character so frightening that ordinary characters will be afraid to approach or attack them. They must succeed in a presence throw with a difficulty factor of 2 just to approach. All right. Then we have Save in Combat. This effect saves one character who is about to be attacked or defeated in a brawl or other combat. Excuse me, my nose. Basically, it means that your character is saved from the results, the bad results of that combat. They, if the result would have been that their character was badly wounded, they're no longer badly wounded. If the character would have been killed, well, now they're not going to be killed. If the character would have been just beaten around the head enough that they got captured, well, now they're not going to be captured. Something else is going to happen. They are saved from it. It's powerful, but it only works once. Okay. Okay. So, and that's last point in that one. Even if there are multiple enemies in that combat, the saved from combat saves you from all of them. So your character could be facing off against a dragon and a Tarrasque, and use the saved from combat against the dragon. Well, it also works against the Tarrasque. It only works once, but it's going to save them from that, and they're going to get away. That doesn't mean that the Tarrasque and the dragon are defeated. That just means that the character gets away for right now. So however you and the player decide that works, is how that works. Now, as the storyteller, of course, you get final say. All right. Find escape route. And this functions whether a character is captured by enemies and locked in a dungeon, or if they are stuck in a cave that's protected by an angry bear, or whatever it is that they are imprisoned by. All right. They're in the enemy's camp, shackled, and maybe going to be sacrificed later because the enemy happens to be evil druids who worship a bad god. All right, cool. But they're going, because they've used this special ability, or this NPC has used this special ability, they're going to escape. All right? They're going to find an escape route, even though one seems impossible. So use this judiciously, but it's a good thing to save in your back pocket. All right. Escape bonds. So however a character is immobilized, in whatever fashion they are immobilized, they escape it somehow. Work out how they do it as the storyteller, but that means that they escape. And this works for your NPCs as well as for the PCs. How this works for the PCs, I'll get to once we get through this list. It's not a long list. There's a few more. Find something hidden. Obviously, there's something hidden. There's a clue or a secret, and your character maybe has saved up this one special effect, or your non-player character has this one special effect, and you know the players have tried to hide something from them. Bam, they're going to find it once. hide. They'll manage to hide whatever it is they're hiding from. Maybe it's that dragon. Okay, now they've used this. They get to hide from it however long it takes for that dragon to leave this encounter, for the episode to end. For the rest of this episode, they have hidden from that creature. Once the episode's over, all bets are off, and the creature can find them again at the next episode. Okay? Kill a foe in combat. Well, that just means that basically, as long as the person using this special ability is armed and capable of fighting, they're going to be able to pull a David versus Goliath and kill their opponent. So be very careful with that special ability, especially in the hands of your non-player characters, because they might, there might come a point where it makes the most sense to use that against one of your PCs. Ooh, that could be interesting, right? But it also at a point where if the PCs find themselves in possession of this special effect, that they will then maybe, your big bad evil guy will be making their speech, right? Explaining all the things that they've done, and suddenly, bam, I'm just going to kill them. And then, you have to work out what that means with your player characters. There's a lot more to each of these. There's a whole paragraph of information. I'm just kind of summarizing and giving my interpretation of how this works based upon my brief reading of it. So, you can also give your own interpretations of these things. That's part of the fun, all right? These aren't necessarily, they don't have to be hard and fast rules. They're just, this is what is supposed to happen. Work it out. Trust yourself. All right, moving on. Knock an opponent senseless. Knock an opponent senseless. Well, it's kind of like killing an opponent, but now you're just knocking them senseless because maybe you really want to capture them. Maybe you really want to have the NPCs, your player characters captured. Well, having an opponent that has this special, and you can just say, you know what? They're using their special. Bam! It doesn't matter what the players roll in their checks. Maybe they don't even get a roll because that one character is going to get knocked senseless. All right? Maybe that's the last character that was conscious during a battle. The other characters had been knocked unconscious, but this one was just refusing to go down. And you're like, no, I need the story to continue for this to happen, and I have this in my back pocket. Bam, we're using it now. Boom, okay, now we can move on to the next scene. Might feel a little cheap, but it only happens once, and that's the thing that your players need to remember. If you make your storyteller use that, and they never get to use it again with that particular NPC. All right, these are very rare, at least they should be, and their use should have an impact and not just be a all the time gotcha thing. All right. Incite lust. Oh boy. Basically, you are inciting someone to feel lustful towards another character or something else that they might feel lustful for. Maybe it's lustful for food. Maybe it's lustful for bawdy music. Maybe it is lustful for physical intimacy. You can have fun with that one, and so can your players. But it can be used for creating a distraction. It can be used for gathering information. It can be used for any number of things, just getting someone to go along with your plan. You are inciting a lustful response. What you do with that is up to you. All right. Suppressing lust. Okay, so that's another one. Let's say, one NPC has the inciting lust special ability. The next one has the suppress lust special ability. They can get into a little tit for tat for about 5 minutes. Could be fun. Could be funny. The other part is maybe you've got that the horny bard in D&D terms, who is always making an issue about things, and you have a big bad, maybe Morgan Le Fay, and your bard is like, oh, I'm just gonna make her fall in love with me, and then she will release us, and we won't have to worry about her having captured us. And they try to do it. Hey, Morgan Le Fay, I mean, you want me to sing a ballad about you? And they act obnoxious. And Morgan just doesn't want to deal with that. And so you as a storyteller you know that you have that in your back pocket to say, bam, suppressing lust. No, not happening. I kind of like that, honestly. Inspire individual to greatness. This is kind of a cool one. So inspiring an individual to greatness is basically a special ability that allows you to give extra coins for tosses to a player character so that they can accomplish a goal that ought to be beyond their standard capabilities, something beyond that they should normally be able to do. Well, now, as long as they have this inspire to greatness, they can give it a shot. They can try. That's kind of cool. The user should state the source of inspiration. Should it be the smile of a lovely damsel, the sight of a friend in danger, the sermon of a wise monk, or whatever the situation offers? In game turn, the result of inspiration is to add 2 coins to every coin toss of the selected character for the duration of the inspiration. So as long as that moment that is inciting inspiring you is around, as long as that inspiration is present, you get 2 more coins to everything. Kind of cool, right? The duration must be negotiated with the current storyteller. The effects of inspiration might last for the length of a fight or a seduction, or for the day, or as long as it takes for the adventure to be resolved. So this could be like, it could last for an entire session, it could last for multiple sessions, or it could just last for one encounter. It's negotiable, but the idea is being whatever it is going to inspire them to be great in that moment. It's kind of cool. All right, we're almost done. Confuse opponent. Using this allows your opponent to become utterly confused, allowing you to get away with things that you wouldn't normally get away with. Kind of cool. The person can become hypnotized. They will be utterly fooled by the benefited character's persuasion skills. It isn't necessary for the storyteller or player to make a speech. Somehow, the selected character manages to say or do something which confuses the target character so greatly that the latter acts contrary even to his own desires. Thus, the confused character might grant freedom to hated prisoners or even admit guilt to a crime he did not commit. All right. Arouse passions of the crowd. Ooh, I like this one. A crowd of ordinary non-adventurer characters will be irrevocably swayed to the will of the benefited character. The listeners must always be of common class. Noblemen do not submit themselves to mob mentality. He jumped up on the ledge. He's fine. I'm not. I got something in my eye. Ha! Professional. Anyway. The mob will then carry out whatever order is given, even if it is a bit ridiculous or nonsensical, even contrary to the crowd's normal way of thinking. Thus, the enraged peasant mob will storm the castle. The slaves will be inspired to swarm their masters, or the caravan boss and his men will be swayed to undertake a journey previously thought too dangerous. That's what aroused passions of a crowd can do. Pretty special. Pretty unique. All right. Those are all of the special abilities that exist for a character. And now here's how they're used. Basically, they're used in two ways, like I alluded to before. They can be in the possession of a non-player character, which is then, that's usually pointed out when a scenario or an episode is described. It will list which NPCs have which special effects available to them. All right. They cannot be traded from one to another. Each one is applied only to that NPC. But they add a little spice. The other way is those can be gifted to a player. But how they're done, how they're gifted is interesting. So what happens with that is if you, let's say that you want to have because the standard effect of Prince Valiant storytelling game is that the storyteller is going to shift from session to session or episode to episode. Each storyteller has the chance to prepare their own episode that's going to affect the characters of all the other players. And they all take turns being the storyteller. Everyone gets a chance to sit in the hot seat. And then there is one main storyteller above them all who kind of guides the general direction of where the campaign is going, but at the same time kind of allows each of the storytellers to tell their own episodes. Think of it like the director of a show versus the authors of individual episodes, or the directors of individual episodes, right? If you're talking about a TV show. But every time a player has successfully run an episode for all the other players, and that successfully is at the discretion of the main storyteller, they can be assigned a special effect for their character. And this is usually, there is a certificate in the book that you can use for this. And you basically kind of circle the special effect that the character is going to receive, making it specific to that player's character. And then when they want to use it, they can then cross out the circled one, or turn it in, or whatever system you want to work with people. Okay. And so that means that, when you've got a rotating list of players and their characters, as well as rotating storytellers, then everyone's going to have an opportunity every other month or so, in theory, to have a special effect on one of their characters. Now, if you're letting players run multiple characters, although only one is active at a time, then maybe that'll be less often, because they can maybe choose which character they get the special effect on. Okay, maybe you do like a West Marches style campaign where that changes. Which character is being played will depend on which group there is being activated for the week. All right, could be options there. So they complete the episode. It goes well. They get a certificate, which then tells them their special ability. They hold on to that certificate until something happens when they're a player again, and they say, I want to succeed in this thing, and then they turn in their certificate and say, bam, I'm using my special ability. They get to use it once, only once, but then whatever it is that it is, they get to succeed at. And it's just like what happens with the NPCs. That's that's the encouragement of allowing this encouragement that makes people want to be storytellers because it gives their characters big advantages, but it's not a permanent advantage. So you shouldn't end up with a situation where, oh my gosh, now suddenly I've got this unkillable player character, or undefeatable player character, because they were a storyteller a couple of times and they've got all this special stuff now. That really shouldn't be happening. People might be saving them, might be hoarding them, and then using them all at once. But once they're used, they're used. All right, that's the saving grace to it all. I think it's kind of neat. I'm not 100% sold on every aspect of it, but it's a cool idea, and I look forward to trying it out a time or three to just make sure, see if my experience of using it is different than my mental thought process of using it. So in my mental thought process, it could be really unbalancing and game breaking, and maybe even flat out annoying, depending on what scenario the DM's putting together. But maybe I'm also a grumpy old man curmudgeon, and I need to get off my own lawn. All right, just teasing. So I think it's really cool. Ultimately, I think it's really cool. It's an interesting option. It's a tool for the tool chest, and all us DMs know that there's nothing wrong with having more tools in the tool chest when we want to make great adventures for our players. That's all for tonight. I'm going to save the next topic I alluded to for another video. Hopefully this one won't be so long. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. Talk to you later. Peace be with you. Bye-bye now.